Okay, let's get this party started. So it looks like my phone only allows me 20 minutes to record this video based on my camera settings, which on Instagram I found a way to do that. There was like a cool short that allowed me to maximize the settings, but that's the boring stuff. So this is my second or third YouTube video, and I have a lot to say because today is the day that my son has started daycare. He is 2 years and 2 months old, and since his life started, my last 2 years have been absolutely insane. And I feel like I finally have the time to do something creative and something I've always wanted to do but never really had the time to do, made excuses for, but honestly simply prioritized other more important things because look, my house is empty right now. There's nobody here to bother me. There's no child, toddler running around screaming, hanging off of me. I don't have clients calling me in the meantime, so I figured I want to spend this time to make a 20-minute YouTube video. So the reason it's important to me, well, significant, I would say. I mean, I joked with my wife that I would cry when I first made this video, is that I now have this spare time to do this, and I've been waiting a long time to do this. So my background is that I was a chef for 10 years in New York City in the fine dining scene, and as you can imagine, free time doesn't rhyme with that kind of industry. There is no work-life balance. There isn't any stability in that kind of job at all on the financial or on the quality of life side, because it's all about committing to the work, to the team, to the food, to the service, and to the customer, right? All of those things have always been a priority. So in that job, I always neglected taking care of myself, especially when I became a chef and, transitioned from line cook to chef. That's when my work schedule increased by about, 10, 15, 20 hours per week, and basically took away my ability to meal plan and to work out and to thoroughly take care of myself. It was this huge disruption in my life, but I moved up the pecking order. I made the money and, made the money. I make it sound like it's like millions of dollars. It's not, For us, it's like a small bump, going from working hourly to making salary was, by restaurant standards, a big deal. Why do I say all this? Because I went from one large disruption to another. So went from working in this industry where I didn't really have the time to do passion projects outside of that job. In fact, I knew nothing outside of the fine dining world. I didn't know anything about finance. I didn't know anything about podcasting. I didn't know anything about YouTube. I didn't know anything about starting businesses. I had no outside knowledge or no outside understanding of a world that's not food. I mean, don't get me wrong. I had my pet things that I read and history podcasts that I listened to. But for the most part, how to make a living outside of that job, I did not understand it. I did not know it. And in fact, I was afraid of it. And I could speak for a lot of chefs in the industry now that wouldn't know what to do if they transitioned to another field. But my hand was forced because my son was born. And 2 weeks before he was due, our restaurant closed. And my wife, she was the pastry chef at the time. I was the chef de cuisine. She looked at me and she said, everything will be fine. Look, we're going to lose our insurance. We're going to lose our savings. We're going to lose our jobs. Let's go on unemployment. We'll make ends meet. But the important thing is that we're going to be together as a family for when my son is born. So I say all this to mean that because of his birth, I fundamentally had to transition outside of the industry, and because we lost our jobs. So I spent the first 4 months with my family. My wife ended up taking up to 9 months. And then I ended up joining a amazing company called The Chef's Warehouse, which I've actually worked with as a chef for about 10 years. And they're a broadline specialty distributor. They sold food, and every single restaurant I worked in, I made sure to have a Chef's Warehouse account. So I knew some of the reps, I knew some of the upper management there. We had good relationships. They even threw an event at one of my restaurants, and everything went well. And they reached out to me when they found out that I wasn't employed, and that's history. I basically ended up joining them after the 4-month period and took a lot of training classes, had to commute to the Bronx here and there. And just, it was a 6-month process until I was allowed to be a sales rep and go out and have a book of business where I sold food to restaurants. Why am I saying all this? And what does that have to do with daycare today? Is it just because oh, hey, I no longer have to take care of my son while I'm juggling working remote and seeing customers and fulfilling their needs? No, it's because now I finally have the time to actually explore and apply all the things I learned these past 2 years. And what ended up happening is ever since my son was born, I started to passively consume information. And when I say passively, I mean roughly 6 to 8 hours a day. And when I say passively, I mean it's all just coming in. Never really got a chance to put it all together. So I listened to people like Ali Abdaal, Daniel Priestley, Alex Hormozy, and many, many others that talk about business, that talk about podcasting, that talk about YouTube, that talk about finance, that talk about opening businesses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of it was completely fascinating. And especially with the Chef's Warehouse being on the sales side, it completely opened my world to what's available, what's possible, what can be done. And as a profoundly hardworking creative person, I sat on the sidelines for 2 years waiting for a moment where I could just have a little bit more time, a little bit more peace and quiet to do what I want to do. And I think this is my 3rd YouTube video. And what's cool is like, yeah, so even I've had a couple of moments the last 2 years where I definitely was interested in doing some side projects, starting small businesses, some crazy ideas, some dumb, some that didn't make any sense, but it's all part of the learning process. It was just me feeling anxious and really wanting to put pen to paper and to apply the lessons that I learned from this plethora of characters that exist online who basically sell their knowledge, to us for free, which is insane. I feel like I got like a baby MBA education just by listening to that many hours of podcasts. And what's funny is that there seems to be like this theme in the YouTube community that most people are just consuming this for entertainment. They're not actually going to do anything with the information they consume. They traded out The Simpsons, Family Guy, I don't know, Game of Thrones for just listening to hours of business conversation and vicariously living through these successful people while never doing anything themselves in turn. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I definitely didn't do anything active, but I was yearning, I was craving, and I was iterating my ideas. Hell, like I wanted to start like a traveling catering business where I basically take like a Santa Maria grill and just offer it to clients in the tri-state area. They book an event with us, we buy everything day of, we go to them, we prep it, we grill it, we pack up, we leave, we charge them basically like a break-even fee for the service. But the fun thing is I want to turn that to a YouTube channel where I record my day from beginning to end, pay us like some college student like a measly salary and give them an opportunity to just have fun with us, eat awesome food, hang out, and test their recording and directing and editing chops with us. So that was one of the ideas. Of course, it didn't work because I live in an apartment in New York City. Where the fuck am I going to store a Santa Maria grill that smells like smoke and char and grease? And then it was like, where am I going to power hose this thing? How am I going to attach it to the back of my car? All of these very typical logistical things that don't make any sense. Well, that would make plenty of sense if I had a house, but don't make any sense for an apartment setup. So that's one thing. And then the other one was, hey, I have a pretty good hand with restaurant financing and understanding the metrics that go into running a business, running a kitchen. I worked on a small deck with that, maybe possibly turn into a book. Then I turned that into hey, the 10 things you can do to, save money as a restaurant. So stuff like that. I'm not claiming to be an expert, but it just, I want to share my thoughts. And on the cooking side, I love cooking. I love fine dining. I love plating. I love making complicated things, but I don't really have the space to do that. And in fact, I don't know, how do I say it? The YouTube, especially YouTube space, is just oversaturated with chefs teaching people how to make food, whether it's for Long Island Moms, whether it's Italian, whether it's fine dining, whether it's Joshua Weissman, who's, by the way, the best at this on YouTube. But the point is, it's oversaturated. You want to learn how to make something, you want to learn how to make a burger, bake some bread, make some sourdough. There's plenty of YouTubers that are already established who are actually the go-to to do that I go to do that. And I have chef experience too. I love revisiting fundamentals, don't get me wrong. But still, the content is out there, someone's doing it really well, and there's really no point for me to do it and compete in that space. What I would like to focus on more is the financial side of restaurants, because I think that's actually where even the best chefs don't know their metrics. Even the best chefs fail to collect their metrics. And even the best chefs, when they collect and know their metrics, they don't know what to do about it. They're kind of running on autopilot. And it looks like my phone is blowing up. I have a chef calling me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a lot. I meandered, I waffled, and I fully intend to continue doing it this way because I sat down to write scripts and to keep it formatted and have talking points and like really flesh it out. And then I realized I was spending like fucking 5 to 10 hours doing that shit instead of just recording the video. So I'm just gonna record the video, get comfortable talking on camera, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. I wanna make more of these coming soon. Thank you.